In 1975, a simple blind taste test shook the world's most powerful brand to its core. Most people chose the underdog, and the giant panicked. This single moment of insecurity led to the biggest marketing blunder in human history. But the real mystery isn't why they failed, it's how that failure actually saved them. The war between Coca-Cola and Pepsi isn't just about soda. It is a century-long, psychological battle for the soul of the consumer. And it all started because one man didn't know what he had. Imagine it's the late 1800s. John Pemberton, a pharmacist, creates a tonic in a brass kettle. He thinks he's making medicine. He has no idea he's creating a cultural icon. At the time, the market believed soda was a health product. People went to soda fountains to cure headaches and exhaustion. Pemberton's mindset was simple: create something that makes people feel better. But behind the scenes, the business was a mess. Pemberton sold off pieces of his invention just to stay afloat. He died before he ever saw the red and white empire rise. The true genius was a man named Asa Candler. Candler understood something the world hadn't realized yet. He realized you don't sell the liquid, you sell the brand. He gave away thousands of coupons for free glasses of Coke. He plastered the logo on clocks, calendars, and scales. By 1900, Coca-Cola was everywhere. It felt inevitable. But while Coke was building a monopoly, a small competitor was quietly brewing in North Carolina. Caleb Bradham followed the same path, creating Brad's drink, which later became Pepsi Cola. On the surface, it looked like a copycat, but Pepsi was born with a chip on its shoulder. It was the eternal number two. And being number two makes you dangerous because you have nothing to lose. If you enjoy diving into the hidden strategies that build global empires, you might want to join us by subscribing. We break down the moves most people miss. For decades, Pepsi was a ghost. They went bankrupt 3 times. They even offered to sell themselves to Coca-Cola on 3 separate occasions. Each time, Coca-Cola said no. They didn't see Pepsi as a threat. They saw them as an annoyance. This was the moment that locked Coca-Cola into a dangerous path. They became arrogant. They believed their position was untouchable. Meanwhile, Pepsi was forced to innovate. During the Great Depression, they made a move that changed everything. While Coke sold a 6-ounce bottle for 5 cents, Pepsi sold a 12-ounce bottle for the same price. They turned the product into a value play. Twice as much for a nickel, too. It was a brilliant strategy, but it created a perception problem that would haunt them for 50 years. Coke was the premium, classic choice. Pepsi was the cheap alternative. Insiders at Pepsi knew they couldn't win on price forever. They needed to change the narrative. They needed to stop talking about the bottle and start talking about the person holding it. The strategy was simple but. Step 1. The Pepsi Generation. In the 1960s, Pepsi stopped trying to be the other cola. They decided to own the future. They targeted the youth. The logic was flawless. If you capture a customer when they are 12, you have them for 60 years. This looked smart because it bypassed Coke's nostalgia defense. Coke was what your parents drank. Pepsi was what the cool kids drank. The assumption was that the classic image would eventually feel old and dusty. But it didn't work immediately. Coke's grip on the American identity was too strong. So, Pepsi moved to step 2, the Pepsi Challenge. This was a stroke of psychological genius. They set up booths in malls across the country. They asked people to take a blind sip of 2 unmarked cups. One was Coke, one was Pepsi. The result was undeniable. People preferred the sweeter taste of Pepsi. On paper, this was a total victory. The logic was, if the product tastes better, the product should sell more. This assumption had to be true for the campaign to work, but it failed to account for something deeper. It failed to account for the emotional weight of a red label. However, the challenge did something Pepsi never expected. It didn't just win over customers. It got inside the heads of the executives at Coca-Cola. It made the giant blink. And when a giant blinks, they usually trip. This leads to a question I want to ask you. If you were a CEO and saw your rival winning every taste test, Would you change your recipe or double down on your heritage? Let me know in the comments, because what Coke did next still baffles historians. The numbers in the early 80s were terrifying for Coke. Their market share had been dropping for 20 years. Pepsi was closing the gap. Investors were nervous. The growth looked steady from the outside, but the hidden loss was the mind share. The leadership at Coke felt they were losing the flavor war. So, they did the unthinkable. They decided to kill the original formula. They launched New Coke. Internally, the data supported this. In 40,000 blind tests, New Coke beat the original, and it beat Pepsi. The numbers said this was a guaranteed win. The scale of the launch was massive, but there was a tension between the scale of the product and the sustainability of the brand. The day New Coke was announced, the company's headquarters was flooded with 1,500 angry phone calls a day. Protests broke out. People were hoarding the old Coke in their basements like it was a precious metal. The numbers showed people liked the taste, but the numbers couldn't measure the feeling of betrayal. Coca-Cola had spent a century telling people that Coke was the real thing. And then they told them the real thing wasn't good enough anymore. It was a total collapse of belief. The uncomfortable truth that no one wanted to say was that Coke wasn't a drink. It was a piece of the American soul. By trying to be better, they accidentally told their fans their memories were wrong. This brings us to a shocking reality. Pepsi actually gave their employees a day off to celebrate when New Coke was launched. They thought they had won. They thought Coke had finally admitted that Pepsi's taste was superior. But Pepsi missed the biggest realization of all. By killing the original Coke, the company had turned a soda into a martyr. The public outcry was so loud that 79 days later, the company brought back the original formula as Coke Classic. And that's when the weirdest thing happened. Sales for the original Coke didn't just recover. They exploded. The New Coke disaster reminded everyone why they loved the brand in the first place. It was the greatest accidental marketing play in history. There are a few powerful lessons here. First, the better product trap. Smart people at Coke missed the fact that brand loyalty often overrides physical quality. Logic says the better taste wins. Psychology says the better story wins. Second, the data blindness. Coke's executives trusted the taste test data but ignored the emotional data. They measured the tongue, but they forgot to measure the heart. Third, the power of number two. Pepsi's constant pressure forced Coke to innovate, but it also forced Coke to remember who they were. Without Pepsi, Coke would have become stagnant and boring. These ideas apply far beyond just soda. Whether you are building a small business or a personal brand, you have to ask, are you selling a feature or are you selling a feeling? If you enjoy real business stories like this, you might want to subscribe. We have more deep dives into the strategies of the world's biggest brands coming your way. Do you think Coke would still be number one today if they never launched New Coke? Or was that failure the only thing that saved them? I'll see you in the comments.